All right, hi everyone. Welcome back. I am Dr. Vernita Glenn-White, and joining me is Dr. Kim Harrell. And I'm going to let her introduce herself because I always think it's great for a person to introduce themselves, and then if she leaves anything out, I'll add it. So, Dr. Kim, please tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what results you produce in the world, and anything else you want to share.
Well, thank you, Dr. Glenn White. My name is Kim Harrell. I am a speech language pathologist by training, and I currently work as an assistant professor in the Department of Otolaryngology and Communicative Disorders at the University of Louisville, where I pretty much prepare grad students to go out into the world and be speech language pathologists.
Okay, great. Now, what was you named something? What is it exactly? The title or the area?
Of the department,
Hmm.
the Department of Otolaryngology and Communicative Disorders. So I'm in the School of Medicine, and so we're tied in with the otolaryngologists, which are the ENT people. And
Okay.
so that's the name that most people know them by. So we're kind of in there together. It's just a nice, long, fancy name. I don't have anything to do with them. So it's
But
just
you're
like,
in there in the
yeah,
College of Medicine. You're in there, so
yeah.
that is great. Well, that sounds fancy. I love it. So, what exactly does a speech language pathologist do? Like, I remember then when I was teaching in K-12, we would
Mhm.
have students. They would come on campus, but I was like, I never knew what they did. So,
Well, we work with people who have communication disorders, people who have also swallowing disorders. So there are pretty much two areas that we work in. So you have your speech language pathologists, or SLPs, we call them for short, who work in the educational setting, like you said, in the school setting. So students who have language disorders, who have articulation disorders, students who have disorders of fluency, which is stuttering, and then also there may be some students who have voice disorders, but majority of school SLPs are going to treat articulation disorders and those language disorders, which include expressive language and receptive language. So then you go to the medical side, and you have SLPs who work with people who've had strokes, people maybe who have certain type of cancers, um, just really people who are trying to be rehabilitated. And so those are kind of the two sides. And then you have SLPs that do both, some who just kind of specialize, in that one area, or, they just kind of go back and forth. So we pretty much cover everything. We pretty much cover everything.
okay, that's a unique field. Like, what made you get into that area of work and study? And then you got a PhD in it, so that means you're really into it.
Well, actually, the way I got into speech language pathology was through my mom. So I went to three different schools for undergrad, but I still graduated in 5 years though. I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to be in the medical field, but I didn't want to take the science classes. Go figure, that was not going to work. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to go into education because my mom's a teacher. My grandmothers, were all teachers. I had a lot of teachers. I like working with kids. I really like working with people, who had disabilities. So I was like, I'll be a teacher. Well, that didn't work because I couldn't pass that math class that they have everybody take in education, the class they use to weed
Yes.
everybody out. I got weeded out. And I was like, this isn't going to work. So I transferred to a couple of different schools. And then I got to my second school. And I was like, well, I'm going to try education again because I don't have to take the tricky math class. And so I was like, I can, I transferred to this school and got there, and their education department became unaccredited. So if I graduated from there,
It
my
wouldn't
degree
matter.
wasn't going to be no good. And I was like, and I had at this time I had majored, I had tried mass comm. I had tried everything else. Like, well, maybe I do psychology. I really like history. I was like, maybe I'll be a history major. It's like, what are you gonna do with that? It's like, I don't know. And my mom was like, well, I saw something on TV the other day about a speech language pathologist. She said, I think you would be really good at that.
Wow.
So she said, you speak good and you've always been a really good speller. I was like, I don't know what that has to do with it. And I
Wow.
was like, okay, cool. And so the school that I was at did not have a speech pathology program. So I had to transfer once again. And so that's how I transferred to the school I actually graduated from, which was Tennessee State University.
Okay.
And got there, did a couple of years there, got my degree. And I was like, I don't like this. Like, I don't want to be speech and language pathologist. And plus, I partied really hard in undergrad and I couldn't get into a grad program because, the master's degree is the entry level degree for a speech and language pathologist. So you can't do anything with your bachelor's. Um, and I just had too much fun, and my grades were horrible and I could not get into grad school there. I tried and they were like, nah, like you can't do
No.
it.
Mm-mm.
And so, end up working, various jobs, working with people who had disabilities, working for early intervention system. And then eventually just kind of came back full circles, like, you know what? I think I want to go back and be an SLP. And so, of course, went to grad school, um, got that done, worked for about 8, 9 years. And then I was like, well, you know what? I think I'm gonna go back and get my PhD because I always wanted to get my PhD. I actually applied when I was getting ready to leave grad school, but the way my GRE scores were set up, my GPA was great,
These
but the way
tricky
those
tests,
GRE scores
tests,
were set
man.
up, they were like, no. And I was like, well, why not? And it was like, no. And I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. I will just get work experience. And I'm really glad I did because that really played a major part. And once I got into my PhD program, because I really had a better understanding of what I wanted to research and the questions that I wanted to ask versus if I had just left, went
It
straight from
went
a
straight
grad program,
through. Mhm.
into a PhD program. So, and here we are.
Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Wow, that I don't think I've known I didn't know all of that about your journey. So that is interesting. It's a great story and it leads into a lot of things that we're going to talk about today. But I do want everyone to know a little bit more about you. So how would you describe yourself both personally and professionally, or do you think there's a difference?
I definitely think there's a difference. So professionally, I definitely describe myself. I'm very motivated, very ambitious, very resilient. Um, and I think I've always been that way. I've never just wanted to settle. And so I think as a professional, I'm always, striving to get that next thing. It's like, okay, I've gotten here. I like this. Well, now I want to do this. So now I'm going to go and pursue that. Because like even now I just got through taking a 2-week course to get certified to work with students who have dyslexia.
Nice.
And so like it was a very detailed course. And then I found out I have to do an 8-month practicum. And I'm like,
So a 2-week course, but then an 8-month practicum.
right, I have to do an 8-month practicum. I have to do 100 hours in this practicum. And then, to go to the other levels of certification, I have to do more hours and work with more advanced, more, severe students. So I'm like, okay, cool. I've always liked learning. So I think that's one thing about me, professionally too. Like I just don't, stop here. It's like, I when I came out of my PhD program, I know I did not know everything. I knew a lot than most people, but I didn't know everything. And so I really strive to just continually be learning, to just always be learning. So I think that's me on the professional side. As far as the personal side, I had to really have a come to Jesus this past spring and get myself together personally. Um, but I feel like I am a woman who is always evolving. And I think that as you get older, as your career and your purpose evolves, I think you kind of evolve as a woman. And so I feel like I'm just always evolving, just always, evolving, always finding out something different about myself, always really trying to pay attention to the things that really matter, to me, and just kind of focus on the things that are important. And honestly, before this year, I never even thought about personal development. It was always professional development. That's just a term I always heard, like, okay, developing myself personally. That's why I feel like, professionally, I feel like I'm great, because I've done all the things, to be a great professional, to put me in a good place professionally. But personally, it's like, not I haven't developed that as much as I have my professional development.
And you're not alone in that. And I'm glad you said that, because that's going to lead into our next segment. So I was like trying to hold myself back from wanting you to talk more about that, but we're going to talk about that later. But yeah, if you are listening or watching, let me know, like, can you describe yourself personally and professionally, and do you see that it's like off balance, and in which area? And you may be surprised, it may be professionally. So many of us, especially high achieving women and men too, but mainly us high achieving ambitious women, professional on locks, and we're gonna do whatever we can to be developed and grow professionally. But then that other side, that's another story, but we're gonna get more into that. So, as you may know, or you may not, for those of you that are listening and watching, you may not know, but I did write this book, Embracing Grit for Greatness, Becoming Professionally Powerful Through Personal Empowerment.
Yay!
And it was a lot of what Dr. Kim was saying. I was like, I have all of this together, but then it was a point in my life, and I was like, whoa, as she said, a come to Jesus moment. It was like, whoa, chick, there is nowhere else for you to go.
Right.
Especially like those of us who have these PhDs, which are like the what 2% of people in the world that have them, and maybe even less than that the way things are going. But it's like, what else are you going to do? So you got to figure out some other areas to look at. So I'm going to ask you, Dr. Kim, to we're going to kind of break down this title and let me know your thoughts about that. So the first part is, what does grit mean to you?
Well, I have to be honest. When I see grit, I always add an S, and I'm like, ooh, grits, girls raised in the South. Oh my, yeah, have you never seen them before? I saw that
Well,
T-shirt once in a Cracker Barrel, and it had grits, girls raised in the South. So whenever I see, I was like, ooh, I just automatically added the S, and I was like, ooh, grits.
but here's the difference. And I think I don't go to that because I'm in Florida, but I don't consider, we had this conversation, I don't consider myself Southern. So no, I don't know anything
Florida's
about,
not the South.
I eat grits, but that phrase, I don't feel that applies to me.
Yeah, and I think this was Tennessee or or something.
Exactly.
I am a grit. Yes, I am a girl who was raised in the South. You're right. Florida's not the South. It's a whole nother.
We are in the South.
Right. That's a whole nother. Y'all like Texas.
Don't do us.
Country.
Texas think they're South. No.
To an extent, yeah. To an extent, they are. They're more South than
They're more Southern. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely for sure. But your grit that you're talking about, when I guess when I think about grit, I always think about I think about resolve, just having a certain type of resolve about yourself, of just being able to just pretty much kind of conquer, anything that's coming at you. So
yes,
that's what I would say for grit.
And we may not have used this word, like I've never used this word until the PhD program, but we know about grit professionally. We do know. We don't use it, but we know about grit. But I like that resolve and conquering things. The next one is, what does greatness mean to you?
I guess when I think about greatness, I would say it means just being distinct, definitely set apart. I don't think everybody can really, everybody probably strives to, to be great or to exude greatness, but I don't think it's something that everybody has. So, it's something that's really distinct. It's something that, you have if you're kind of set apart, from everybody else. When we think about the people that we may think of as being, man, they were just great, just exuding greatness, they're set apart from everyone else. So, when you're distinct and you're set apart, I think that, is greatness.
So what I hear you say is, like, sometimes when I see something and I'm like, oh, that's great, I be lying, because that's what I heard you say. Like, good what, I wasn't set apart from that.
That wasn't great. That was all right. It was good, but not great.
I do like that. And some people may say like, oh my gosh, that's not true. Everyone has greatness. And everyone probably do have, they probably have it inside of them, but to be great, it has to be shown.
Right.
And
You have to walk. Everybody's not walking in their greatness.
yeah,
Everybody does. I think, everybody comes here with the potential to be great, but everybody's not living up to their potential. We know that. A lot of people walking around not living up to their potential. So they have that greatness inside of them, but they're not doing the things that need to be done to bring that greatness out. So yeah, everybody has that potential, but everybody's not walking in their greatness.
uh-uh. Wow. Yes. I like that because especially for a high achieving person, sometimes it's hard for us to hear because we're like, we're always the gold star, where we are. But truth be told, it was like, are you the gold star? It's just everyone around you is not even getting stars.
Right.
So yeah,
Ooh.
that is something for us to think about. Like, are you really being great? Are you really being set apart? So I love that you said that. Okay, next thing. What are your thoughts about personal development or personal growth? I go back and forth using the words development because it's, to me, sometimes it sounds like it's remedial, but I know it's not. Like it's like, I don't know. But then personal growth, I may be leaning towards that, but they can be interchangeable, I guess. But what are your thoughts about that?
I think, well, like I said, this year made me realize, or really kind of last year and going into this year, made me realize that there were some things that I wanted to do personal wise, and I just wasn't putting in any effort to do those things. And I think I really just didn't know how. I didn't know how to. It's like I knew what to do to develop myself professionally, take all these courses, get these certificates. But it's like, what do you do to develop yourself personally? And what is it, to be to go through, personal development or personal growth? And so, I really see it as, you're really just kind of taking a step back and just kind of reviewing, the things that you really want. What do I really want out of life? Not, and it's hard to distinguish when somebody says, what do you want out of life? I think a lot of times we automatically go to professional things.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I want to finish this up, or I want to start this business. But, we don't even think about the personal things that we want to do. Maybe write a book, or maybe it is starting a business that's different from what you do Monday through Friday. Maybe it's taking care of your health, investing in relationships. And so you don't really think about those things. You kind of subconsciously think about them, but you really don't put them in the forefront and be like, okay, what am I doing every day to make sure that I'm working towards those goals? And I think that's what, personal development and personal growth is, really taking time out to focus on the things that are important. Because those things, if those things are not in line, that's going to affect, what you're doing professionally too.
Right. And you said something. You gave a time frame of like when you had this epiphany, and then you said it was kind of like last year. I want to point something out. It was like you already had your PhD and you were working as a professor,
Mhm.
right? So it was
Right.
like, at what, out of all of that, what made you still say, I need to take a step back and say, wait a minute, I need to look
Uh,
at my
when
whole
I
life.
was sitting at home quarantining like everybody else in the world, you had nothing but space and time. I did a lot of thinking, a lot of reading, a lot of watching videos. And I think, I mean, and really for me, it was just really getting quiet. And even before then, like in January and February, I remember there were things that, God had kind of started to bring back, to my remembrance from years ago, things that I needed to do and was supposed to do. And it was like, oh, okay, and I had kind of started thinking about it. Then, of course, March came, everything shut down. I didn't have no choice but to be at home and think about it. And, just thinking, being quiet, journaling, and then just realizing, like, wow, there are other things that I want to do. And I think in the back of my mind, there have always been other things, but I didn't know how to do it. Like, I didn't know how to start. I didn't know if it made sense, because everybody's like, oh, you got like the best job in the world. Like, you don't do nothing. It's like, hold up. It's
Yeah,
like,
you hear that
you
a
have
lot
like
as a
the
college
best
professor.
job.
What you doing?
Right. It's like, you have just all this wonderful flexibility. It's like, what are you talking about? You want to do more, or like, is this it? And so I think I just kind of put it in the back of my head because I'm like, well, I really do have it. I have a good setup. I guess I ain't gonna complain. I'm not gonna rock the boat. But like I said, last year just made me realize, like, no, like you're more than just this professor. There's so much other stuff you can do, and there's other stuff you want to do. But now it's like, okay, how do I put all that together? Like, how do I figure that out and put it all together?
Right. I love it. Yes. The quarantine definitely made people do some things like you should. This was the time to really get to know yourself.
Mhm.
I do. I want to dig just a little bit deeper on that because sometimes when I mean, in this world, I guess because I'm on the other side of this, when people hear personal growth or personal development, they think about like courses and coaches and things like that. But you don't really have to. I didn't start there, and I heard that technically you didn't start there. You were saying that you're reading like some books or watching videos. So kind of just give me like some examples because we all start, somewhere you feel that tug, and you didn't
Right.
go straight for let me go sign up for somebody program, or
Oh,
things like that.
because
So sometimes I think, especially for women that look like us or professionals, and even just ambitious people who go after degrees and titles and things, and it's like, wait, um, I need to learn something and it's not attached to a degree. So tell me, like, where was your like entry point?
well, at that time, the way my professor budget was set up, I, enrolling in anybody's class. And I was just really skeptical because I saw all these life coaches, and I was like, I don't need no life coach. Like, I got a therapist. And so I was like, I don't think I need a life coach. But then I just started like, yeah, all the stuff that you were posting, like your videos that you were posting. I think the first thing I did that you had posted something with just the mindfulness, just the mindset. And that was so important because I realized that determined everything I was doing. That was determining how I saw myself, how I saw the situations I was in, how I saw the things I wanted to do. There had to be a shift there. And then as you were posting the other, videos, I was watching your videos because I was like, well, they're out here. And there's no fee to watch
You're
these
my
right
one
now.
view.
And so let me go out here and watch. And they were good. And as you were just kind of going through the process and all those videos and all the different steps, and I was like, well, okay. I was like, and the things that you were talking about were triggering, some of the thoughts that I had and things that I wanted to do, but I just didn't know how to do it. And I was like, okay, well, this makes sense because she's talking about how, stepping down and realizing, you're more. And then with you being a professor, it made sense, because you could understand, because I couldn't have this conversation about some of the things I wanted to do with a lot of other people. Because, I really needed I liked hearing information that was coming from somebody that was in that same academic space. So it's like, you can relate to things that I was, dealing with, things I was going through. And so to hear you talk about these things and how they could be done, and I'm like, well, wait, this can happen because she's a professor. She out here been through the same thing I've been through, doing the same stuff I'm doing. And she's talking about these other things. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, maybe I need to look a little bit further, into this. And so once I started watching your videos, and then you were telling me about some of the people you were following, you had worked with. So I started watching some of their videos. And I think I ended up, there were a couple of conferences I did online that I did end up paying for, which was fine because one of the things I learned is that, you have to invest in yourself. And that was one of the things I really got out of the personal development. It's like, you have to invest in yourself. It's like you invest in yourself professionally. You pay for the courses or certificates, all that type of stuff, but you don't invest in yourself personally. And then that's when I made that decision at the end of last year. I was like, you know what, 2021, since I ain't going nowhere, I'm gonna be at home, not gonna be traveling. Like, that's going to be the year that I invest in myself. And so, like, all this money that I would have spent traveling and doing all this other stuff, I'm going to put it into my personal development. But it all just started with, with just watching those videos. And like I said, had time here, had all the time. Whereas if the pandemic hadn't happened, I probably would never be here because I wouldn't have that time. I would just be in that rat race, just working. I would be thinking about those things, but I still wouldn't have a clear plan of how to make it happen. And I probably just would have been like, well, forget about it. I got a good job. I ain't gonna rock the boat. I'm gonna stay here and retire and move on. And so all of that, watching those videos, going to those conferences online kind of brought me to where I am right now.
Wow, I love that. Yes, it now to go back and find my mindfulness stuff, because yes, I was putting things out as I was going through the my own process, and I was like, I don't know what this is, y'all, but
I was watching and taking
something
notes.
something triggered inside of me and I want to share. But thank you for that. And it's like I didn't know if people cared about mindset or mindfulness. And honestly, I kind of like shifted away from that, because some people, especially those of us who have all of these credentials, um, it can sound like it's for those people over there, like woo woo and what you talking about. But it's a mind. So if you take out mindfulness and look at mindset, it was like you gotta get up here right first before you
But
can.
that's what everybody's talking about now, because in regards to relationships, health, your mindset has to be right with health, because you have to have your mind right to eat the stuff you're supposed to eat, and then to be exercising the way you need to. So everything that we do is mindset. And like I said, that's like the buzzword now. You hear everybody talking about mindset. Everything is mindset. And so, had started talking about this stuff last year, and that's like I said, that's really where it started, because I had to get my mind right and realize that that this could be done, and realize that it was important. So that's where it started, and then it just kind of trickled down from there.
Well, I'm going back to that. Thank you. Make sure I add that. So thank you for that. Because you put out content, and you're like, is anybody watching my stuff? But
I,
what?
I was the person that was
Thank
always watching.
you. So with all of that, you've invested in yourself and you got this new perspective. How has that, or do you think, how, so looking at how you were already a professional, then you went through this process of focusing on your personal development, do you think you've become more professionally powerful in a sense?
I think I have, because it's shown me how to value myself professionally. And I think this is may have been something that you had talked about in your videos, or somebody that I had watched or something, I can't remember. But just seeing myself the way that I should see myself professionally. So, just to give an example, this class that I've been taking, it's most of the people who are in this class are all classroom teachers. So they have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and that's it. Kind of stops right there. So everybody in there, classroom teachers. I think it was me and one other speech language pathologist that was in there. And then of course I'm not a practicing speech language pathologist anymore, at least not full time.
Right.
And they were talking about some information, and they were like, wow, it would be great if we could have some of our SLP people to chime in to kind of talk a little bit more about this. Now, this is a course that's about $1,800 for this particular course. And so when she said that, I was just sitting there like, tight lip. I'm like, mm-mm. Because first thing that came through my mind, now, had this been a year ago, I would have been raising my hand, me. But I was sitting there because I'm like, I don't talk for free. I was like, mm-mm. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, y'all done got paid $1,800. It's 30 of us in here. Y'all got $1,800 a pop for this class.
Wow.
And I'm like, I just sat there looking at them like this at the Zoom. And the other lady who was a speech pathologist, she chimed in and she said her thing. They was like, oh yeah, thank you so much. That's so good. We're actually going to have to put that information on the slide, and we're going to put per, so-and-so on there. And I was in there thinking like, wouldn't have been me, because you wouldn't have been putting my name on the slide for free. But I had to get to that point to realize my time is valuable, my knowledge, my expertise is valuable. Like, I can't keep selling myself short. They weren't going to give me a cut of all that money they made. And I definitely was not going to give my knowledge and expertise for them to put on the slide and circulate in all these other classes that they're going to be teaching and getting all this money. And all I get is, oh, we'll put your name on the slide. Lies. Like, that's not going to work. But I had to get to that point, because like I said, last year, if that had been me, or the year before, even though I'm a professor and have this PhD, I still would have been like,
Yes.
and I would have been excited. Oh, they're gonna put my information on the slide. But now I know, no, like I'm not out here doing. I'm not, because I value myself. I value what I know. I value the time that I put into my education. I value, the time that I put into going above and beyond,
Exactly.
getting all the certifications, putting myself at a different level professionally than even other SLPs who have PhDs. They're kind of content with where they are. I'm like, no, I'm trying to get here because I'm trying to do this X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? And once I get to that point and they, see all those things, it's like, okay, well, she's legit because not only has she done this, but she's done this extra. And it's like, we're going to have to pay her for her expertise, pay her for her time, pay her for her knowledge. And that's why I was just sitting there yesterday, just, just in the back of my mind, like, you better not, you ain't saying nothing.
Nothing.
Like, I do not talk for free. And that's why I was just like, and they knew I was an SLP. They knew I was a professor. And I was just sitting there looking. And they were waiting for somebody, and I was waiting for somebody too. I'm like, well, whoever the other SLP is, maybe she'll chime in. And she did. But like I said, we're functioning on different levels. We're both SLPs, but we're functioning on different levels. She was totally fine with answer, and she should have, and she gave a good answer. She gave the right answer. But she was happy with her name and information being on that slide. I'm like, mm-mm.
Right.
But I think you have to. I would have never saw myself that way really until now, and I think that comes from the personal development and just realizing, and then too, just this whole last year. I think Black people, Black women especially, have just realized that what we go beyond bringing stuff to the table. We are the table, and I think so
Yes.
many times we water ourselves down and allow other people to. When you have other, non people of color out here saying all type of crazy stuff most of the time, and then people are just ranting and raving and wanting to pay them to come and talk about foolishness. And it's like, I'm actually good at what I do. And I think, I had to get to that point to where I had to realize, what, I'm good at what I do. I've worked hard. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to be out here giving it away for free.
Yes.
And so, that was just a process of getting to that point of realizing what I bring to the table, professionally. And that, like I said, it took a long time to get there because I definitely was not there when I graduated and walked
Oh,
across that stage.
sure.
I wasn't even there I wasn't even there 2 years after that. Like, this has just come about, within the last year and a half.
Wow. You said a whole lot. And I love that part, value myself. And I'm going to clarify when she says I don't talk for free, that doesn't mean that you just sit tight lip everywhere. So,
Right.
but you start understanding where you need to interject and where you need to keep your mouth
Yeah.
closed, because sometimes as highly ambitious, the gold star people that we are, like, oh, I want to share all my knowledge with you, and then we wonder why we aren't valued. I had another interviewee say, she mentioned grit exhaustion, where it's like you're striving above and beyond. You're doing all of that beyond what someone's asked you to do. And it's not that you're not selling, like they said this is the bar, and then you just want to go here, but then they still treat you like right here, and then you get upset.
Right.
What you getting upset for? Because they didn't ask you to do that, and they're not going to compensate you for that. So you do exactly what they said, but we're like, I want to do more. I'm extraordinary. I'm above average. And then we get mad. But then it's like
Recognize it.
you got
Right.
to value yourself, and it was like, oh, this is what you want, and be okay with that. And it doesn't make you a less of a person. It doesn't make you less smart or brilliant, but you just understanding, like, nope, I'm not gonna keep giving, because then when you make that transition, it's like, okay, now I want to be the expert in this area, and they're like, well, you've been talking, now you want to charge me?
Right. Like now, right. And that's the thing is like, if you're giving away everything for free and then and then you turn around, you're like, well, yeah, now I'm gonna have to charge you. People are like, well, you gave this presentation last year and you did it for free. It's like, well, you have, like you said, don't, however you start, what I'm saying? That's like, like let's say in relationships, how you got them, that's how you keep them. So it's the same thing, what I'm saying? How you get that, that client or that situation, that's how you keep it. So if you're out here giving away everything for free, then they're going to always expect you to do everything for free. And
Right.
that's what I was like, even though it was small, it was a very small, situation being in this class. I'm like, These ladies are presenting this information nationwide. Like one of them was in Colorado, the other was in California.
Wow.
And so, they do these classes numerous times a year. So that would have meant, if they had, put my name and information, that would have been, going all over everywhere. But, still, like, I'm not getting a piece of that. You're taking, some of my knowledge and expertise. Like I said, y'all getting $1,800
Is it you said per
per
person, right?
person that takes this class. And there was 30 of us.
You do the math.
You do the math.
Math.
Math. That was your role, math. You know how those calculations come out. And I'm like, no, you know what I'm saying? No, like and they wouldn't do that.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because they were had information, there was certain information, certain slides or whatever, certain things they couldn't give us because that's their intellectual property.
There it is.
I have intellectual property too, and I kept it all to myself on yesterday because I was not going to put it out there. But I firmly believe in paying people what they're worth. Were they worth the $1,800? Yes, because they're also going to be the people that are going to mentor me throughout this practicum. So, do they have all the knowledge about this whole approach and working with people with dyslexia? Yes, by all means. So I don't mind paying them because they are the experts and they're worth the money. And so I'm viewing myself the same way. For the things I talk about, I am the expert and I'm worth the money. Just like they're not out here giving away stuff for free. I'm not out here giving away stuff for free. And so
Yeah, I love that. And this, I wish I would have known this during our doctoral process, where we had to go out and do these conferences and even writing these articles. And I'm in the process of doing a series, The Evolution of My Career, and I'm filming, my old presentations, which at this point I don't mind because I'm not working in those areas. But we were out here just trying to get lines on the Vita, trying to build up something.
we need it.
But we didn't know, like, get these emails, start with consulting. Even as doc students, for some reason we forgot we were whole professional people before we got here.
Exactly.
And we, people ask us for the presentations. Okay, here,
Right.
and it was like I need to sit there and calculate how much we gave away for free, but we were not the keynotes who were getting paid to come in. We were paying to go to these conferences, whether it was out of our pocket or out of a budget, we weren't getting it.
Right.
And this thing about how much we gave away, not understanding the value that we had. But then, like I said, these other keynotes, and then the people, they have their own businesses and all of that, but no one told us.
Exactly.
Because we didn't, like, that was work, coming up with these presentations and proposals and presenting this knowledge, and for people to sit there and take pictures of our slides and want all of that. And I've seen this, like, something that I've done at a conference. I saw it somewhere and somebody made a whole little business thing out of it, but I couldn't get mad for.
Right.
All that was up in my head that I put together and I put out there, they took it and ran with it. But now I know what you're not gonna do.
Exactly. All it takes is one time.
So yeah, but it goes back to what you said, understanding the value. Like, you are valuable, you have intellectual property. But I wasn't doing no personal development back then. I didn't know. I was getting.
Right. It was survival mode back then. We were just trying to get out.
Goodness, but
what do I need to do to get out?
Yeah,
to present. Okay,
I'll present. Us free. What's us free? But I love it. Okay, so we're gonna just like transition just a little bit. So you talked a lot about how personal development has helped you, and it's even in your professional life. But is there something, even though I still consider you a successful person, woman, but what is two things? What is your definition of success? And then getting that success, is there an area in your life where you gave up or ignored for your career to be successful?
Well, first of all, I have a whole new way that I view success. So one of the things I think the thing that I would use to define success would be peace. And so I think I sent it to you last year. I listened to a podcast with Marie Forleo and Sherry Riley. And the name of it was Peace is the New Success. And
Yes,
she had
I
talked
love
about her book, what's her book called? Exponential Living.
that.
And just talking about how, all of these different accolades and all these different things that we do, we spend all this time on just maybe 10% of who we are. And I was like, to me, just being able to have peace, is what I consider to be success. Being able, and I also think that, kingdom success is important, being aligned with, who God has called you to be and the things that he has called you to do. So when you're aligned with those things, then that's going to be success. It's not, it's not this title I have. There are a lot of people who's like, oh my God, in our field, it's a big deal if you're able to be, in a school of medicine. It's like, oh my gosh, or, you know, to me, that's not success. This title is not success. Having peace, having my family, having good relationships, having good health, all of those things are what I consider to be successful. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to a podcast this morning, Dr. Mark Hyman. He has a podcast called The Doctor's Pharmacy. It's pharmacy with the F. And he was interviewing Gwyneth Paltrow, and they were talking about success. And she was talking about how when she won her Oscar, she felt depressed and just, had all these things going on, but just realizing that, those things didn't matter, winning that, having all the money, having all those material things. At the end of the day, they didn't matter because here she is with this Oscar, and she was young and she's still over here depressed,
Wow.
sad, down, just feeling like life is just sucks. And so I think it just kind of goes to show that, those, and I think that was the point where she just kind of quit. Because remember, she just kind of disappeared, like you don't really see her and stuff. So, she was a stay-at-home mom, took care of her kids, started going in a whole nother direction. She has her whole health and wellness thing that she focuses on now. So that, those things were the things that brought success to her, being able to be with her kids and, just spend time with her family. And for me, like that's how I view success now, the things that bring me peace, so being able to focus on my health, being able to focus on, building relationships, spending time with my family, all those things, those are the things that bring me peace. So not chasing after more, there are certain things that I want to do career and professional wise because I like to do those things and they are going to set me up to do other things. But I'm not chasing after those things. I'm not chasing after money. I'm not chasing after, fame. And I'm not trying to do, when I first got into academia, I had academic lust. And so I was always, looking at all these other people's CVs, and it's like, I need to be getting all these grants. I need to be getting these publications, all those things. And one time, God just spoke into my spirit, like, that's not what I put you here to do.
Wow.
It's like, you're in this space. Yes, there are things for you to do. You're teaching. There are things for you to do, but, you're lusting over these CVs. That's not what I called you to do. That's not you're not about getting all those $1 million in grant. That's not what I call you to do. And so I had to reprogram myself and realize those things do not equal success. To some people in academia, it does, because that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Getting them grants, having a million publications on your CV. And that's great because for some people are great at that and it's making a difference in their field. And that's what they are supposed to be doing. That's the lane they're supposed to be in. That's not the lane I'm supposed to be in. And I really had to get peace with that, just realizing that, what, this is what I'm called to do in academia. This is what everybody else is called to do in academia. And I'm fine with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm totally fine with it. I'm in my lane that I'm supposed to be in. And those, that's what give me peace. That's what gives me peace, knowing that I'm working on these other things, able to work on these other ventures, pursue all these other different things. Those are the things that bring peace to me. And for me, those are the things that are successful in my eyes.
I love it. So what I'm hearing you say is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can still have those accolades, but it just depends on your focus and making sure that you're looking at your life holistically.
Right.
Because I know for me, when I first started this this journey. You brought up Gwyneth Paltrow, which made me like, okay, let me, I want to talk more about that for a little bit. Sometimes like you hear, oh, it's not about the money or it's not about the accolades, and then it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't go after that anyway to be happy. But that's really not the case. It was like she could have had both, but it was just, where was your attention? And I
Right.
know it was like that, where people would say, well, you have these degrees or you have this and that and the other, and then if I wasn't happy, and it's like, well, you should be, because you have that. And then so I started thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have gone after these degrees, or even writing this book, maybe I shouldn't have done that, because I still feel a certain type of way. But then it really wasn't about that. Like, yes, you can have that, but it's
Right.
like, well, what else are you focusing on? So I wanted to just to make that point, because I don't want people to think that they shouldn't go after anything or have these goals, because being having the accolades, that doesn't make you depressed. Because I thought that, I was like, well, I don't want to be, I don't want that then, if it's going to cause that, because with the little bit I do have, and I'm over here on on the ground. I don't want no more. But it wasn't that. It was a lot of internal stuff, and really being, like you said, being aligned to who you are and who you were designed and called to be. So I just
Right.
wanted to put that out there, because I do think sometimes we're afraid of going after things, because now at this point everybody's talking about your mental wellness and all of that, and it always equates to somebody who's what we consider materialistically successful. They have the money and all of that, and we're like, no, I don't want that. And I was like, yes, I do. I I want that. But but it's like, but if it's gonna come with that, I don't want it. But we don't say like you can have both. It's not either or, it's and.
Right.
So I love
Exactly.
that you said, yes, I'm still in academia, but this is my lane, but I'm also looking at things over here for my peace. So you didn't say, you didn't I have to leave academia and only focus on this to have peace or be successful.
Right. Right. That's true, because I like being in academia. I really do. But like I said, I had to have another come to Jesus and just realize, what I'm called to do in academia. And
Right.
it's not the same thing as everybody else. And that's perfectly fine, as long as I'm in my lane and doing the things I'm supposed to do. Then that to me is being successful, and that, brings me peace, because I know I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yay, I love it. And you're okay. So now I want to ask you this question, and the answer you've already said it, but I want, for people who are listening, I want it to be more focused. So I'm working on this movement, embracing brilliance, and I'm pretty sure you've heard me say that before. But what does that mean to you when you hear that phrase, embracing brilliance?
I think it's kind of definitely embracing who you are. And I think just kind of being aligned with your own type of uniqueness, what makes you who you are, just embracing, what, this is how I am, this is the unique thing about me, this is how I was created, this is how, this is what makes me unique. And then really just embracing that, and not paying attention to what everybody else is doing. And I think that's the big thing, not over here lusting after nobody else CV, not paying attention to what they're doing, embracing the things that are unique about you. This is you, this is how you're created. Everybody, all of us are created uniquely. We're put here to do certain things. And you just have to get to the point to where you really have to embrace that. So really just start aligning yourself up with what makes you unique. And then, just sticking to it and embracing that. So I think that's what, I think that's what it is.
I like that uniqueness, because we oftentimes we try to go be carbon copies of other people. And as much as we say I'm an individual and I'm this, that, and the other, but it's like, no, you're still
Right.
trying to be like somebody else. Because I was with you, I had all the CVs on my desktop, and looking at, well, they went to this conference, let me go do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's
They
like,
did this
well,
program, I'm
they
gonna do it.
yes,
They signed up for this, I'm gonna do the same thing. I was trying to apply to all the same thing. And I'm like, and God, like, that's not what I told you to do.
not what I
Like,
told you.
that's not what I told you to do.
And it worked for them. That's why they have the success, and you over here struggling.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's another thing. Like, if you're over here struggling in it, then that means it's probably not for you. Because when you're aligned where you're supposed to be doing, not saying it's going to be easy, by
Exactly.
all means, it's not going to be easy, but you're going to have peace about it, and there's going to be a flow to it. You're not going to have to struggle. Like I'm out here struggling with these grants. I'm like, I am not, these, and then these other people out here pumping out grants, like,
Left and right.
left and right, and I'm like, but it's like that's not my lane. That's not my lane, and you have to have, you have to be content and have peace with what it is you're supposed to be doing.
And before we move on, I want to touch on that too, because I'm working. I don't want to give people any excuses. When we say a struggle, that doesn't mean like if you have to put in some work and some effort. That doesn't mean you be like, oh, that's not me. That's not it.
That's not it, because everything is going to take effort.
It's gonna be
Everything is going
effort.
to take effort.
But if you are, and you'll feel it within yourself, like Dr. Kim was saying, being aligned. We know it, and if you don't, but it goes back to when you said that mindfulness and that mindset and being still. When you start learning yourself, you'll know when something is off. Like you're chasing something, and inside to be like, mm-mm.
That's
And
that discernment.
yes,
Discernment,
discernment,
like that's not it.
and that's the struggle. So
Mhm.
and I'll give an example, like me putting out this content. I started like at the end of 2019, and when nobody watching it, but I was like, but I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel like I don't want to do it anymore. I still have fun. I'll get on and talk. I'm like, so when Dr. Kim was like, I watched it for real, thank you. But I still had to put work in it, even if no one's watching it, because I still like doing it and it's still effort. However, if I was, I mean, I'll be honest, me and Instagram, we ain't gelling like that for some reason. I'd be like, I don't even want to post like this, but in my mind, I was like, but I need this number so I can get this, that, and the other. And Instagram is a struggle. And God was like, because I told you just to post a little bit, but your focus is over here. So I know that's a lighthearted example, but you, making these videos for YouTube or any other platform, it's effort, but I don't feel like, oh gosh, this is a drain. But me trying to do all of that to be insta famous over here, I mean, if it comes, it's great, but like, I shouldn't have to put, I'm struggling. I'm just, at the time of this video, maybe at the end of the year, y'all look up and I'm at the 10,000 that I want. But at the time of this, it's like, anyway. So that's why I don't want to give anyone an out. There's a difference between
Right.
putting forth effort and struggle. Okay. Thank you
Exactly.
for letting me put that little tangent in there. Okay, so as we are wrapping up, I want to know, what advice would you give to your younger self? And this could be younger self as Lil Kim. Lil Kim.
Look him.
In all the years I've known you, I never thought about Lil Kim until just now. Crazy. Or it could be something as last year, because we're all younger, so it just depends. So
Exactly.
at any stage, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I guess I would tell my I guess I would tell my younger self to, oh, what would I tell my younger self to do? I guess I feel like I guess to just I think I would have liked to have told my younger self to love myself more, because I think I really didn't come into a place where I truly just love and appreciated myself until I got over here in these, once you get over 40, life just changes. I mean, the way you see everything change, the way you see yourself, the way you see everybody else, it just changes. And I think that's what I would tell my younger self, like, love, you invest in you, love yourself more. um I think that would be the main thing that I would say, just really just love yourself more, because I think if I had loved myself more, there would probably been certain, situations, things that I wouldn't have gotten into, and probably would have been a little bit further along with some of the things I wanted to do in life. But then again, all of those things happen for a reason. I think they kind of help to mold me into who I am now. But I think out of everything, that would be like the biggest thing. I would just tell myself to, love yourself more. Love yourself more. Um, just love yourself more. That would be the main thing.
I love that. I think as growing up, especially those of us who our parents or guardians pushed us to be more on the intellectual side, we had the confidence. I believe we had the confidence and the drive and, to do all of that, but it wasn't that self-love. It was like, well, it was more, let me go and perform and be great
Right.
versus internally and loving who you are. Because it's like, as long as I'm on stage and performing, or you see how smart I am, then okay, that means, I love me or you love me or whatever. But it's like, what happens when all of that shuts down? And for me, I know I feel the same way. Love yourself more. It wasn't what I didn't have so much. So I didn't have those conversations about what do I do when I'm not on.
Right.
How am I supposed to be when I'm not being the gold star, the shining star? And that keeps happening year after year after year. And then when you get older, when people don't really care about your accolades that much,
Exactly. But
then it's
then you start looking because you're like, wow, like what did I, well, dang, like what did I miss out on?
yes,
Or even I think I didn't answer that question that you had said, what did I give up, or what the
yes,
things that I gave up? And I think like for me, I remember like when I was in school, like there were a lot of, weddings I missed
yes,
funerals, I missed, a lot of family things. And I think, even like relationship wise, I think, at some point I was just always, I felt like I was always in school. I feel like I've been in school half of my life. I've always been going back to school for something. And I think sometimes, I have kind of, put relationships on the back burner. Some of them needed to go just away anyway.
right,
But I really just probably didn't make conscious efforts, to really put time in. I think because it just at the time it's like there just wasn't any time. It's like I can't, entertain you and be in school, but I do, hate that I missed out on other things, on family things. I think I gave up on a lot of those things. That's why now, family is like a top priority for me. It's like, I got something to do with family, y'all figure it out. I'm gonna
right.
put this stuff online. Y'all look at this video, y'all do these assignments. I'll see you when I get back or whatever. So I feel like, because you, like you said, you look back some days and you're like, well, well, wow, like what did I, you know, like like you said, all these accolades and all that stuff doesn't matter. It's like, okay, what really matters at this point?
Right.
You don't want to, none of us really want to look back and have that, epiphany like, oh my gosh, I spent all this time doing this, that, and the other. That's why, I make it a conscious effort now. That's why I'm saying, those are the things that's success. And that brings me peace, focusing on, those things, because that's what's important at this point. And I think if anything, this last year has shown us
Yep.
is that, life is short, your friends, your family, the people you love, that's where your focus goes. Those, like I said, to me, those are the things that should be considered successful, because there are a lot of people who are not here, who were here this time, last year, or maybe, here this time, the beginning of last year. And at the end of the day, all that other stuff, the things that they did, the accolades, all those things probably did not matter, at that point. So, yeah.
Exactly. Because it looks like we're not always going, everyone's not making it to like 80, 90, 95 to be able to sit around and tell those stories,
Right.
or look back and have these full lives. Like I guess he was a classmate. He was a year ahead of me. He passed away from the virus, and if he was, I think he just turned 40.
Wow. That is crazy.
40. He just turned 40. And it's like, really? It's like we don't have the time like we thought, well, let me get all of this of what I need to be before I start loving myself and living life.
Right.
We don't have that opportunity. We're not getting old. We can't wait. That's what
Right.
I want to say. A
And I
lot of
think
people said, well,
that's one of the things that you kind of discover too in personal development. It's like, I'm not going to waste any more time, not focusing on the things that are important, focus, especially like when you think about things like health, that's a part of that whole, personal, development and personal growth. And I know for me, I had to go back and make that a top priority. It's like, this is the number one thing that's going on right now, because, our jobs, our careers, all those things will, burn us in the ground.
yes, they don't.
So,
Yeah, they don't care.
no, they don't.
But then it goes back to sometimes we give them the shovel to bury us because we're like, I'll do all of that. You know,
Exactly.
I had advice that was not great advice. It was like say yes to everything and then figure it out later. And I was
That's
doing that for
exactly.
years. And it was like, who does this?
But that's what they tell you, when you first get into academia, because you don't want to. But now it's like, like nope,
This is what
like
you're gonna get right here.
Some
Right
stuff
here.
is nope. Some stuff is like double no. Some stuff is like to the no, no. Like I'm not, like don't even ask. But that's like I said, that's like the worst advice ever. But we feed off of that and we do it, and then at some point we look back and we're like, no, like that's not okay. That is
Right.
not okay.
Well, I am glad we are figuring this out, which brings me to my next question. Now, with all of this um, new perspective, where do you see yourself 10 or 20 years out from now?
Woo. Well, definitely 10 years out, I definitely see myself, I am trying to add other things to my, expertise, I guess, folder that I have. So I am trying to branch out and do some more consulting with school systems, doing some one-on-one stuff with, students who have dyslexia. So I do see myself doing more of that. I am still going to be in academia. I don't know if I'll be, that superstar. I'm not going to be that superstar tenure track person. Like that's not what I, desire. I have a whole new thought process, behind it. I'm looking for, flexibility. I'm trying to put myself in a position that's going to provide me the flexibility that I need. So I know that 10 years from now, I'll be teaching in somebody's online program, working from home, still doing my consulting with these different school systems, working and helping kids who have dyslexia. I'll be doing things on my own term. I'll be doing things on my own term. I'll be married, spending time with my husband and doing things with my family, my nephews. So, and I'll be in a better, place health wise. I will, have released all the weight that I've been trying to release. And I'll just overall just be in a better place. I'll actually be living in, the life that I've always wanted to live in. Just like I said, mainly just living life on my own terms, but still, being aligned with God and the things that I'm supposed to be doing. But, I won't be in a rat race, or I won't be entertaining things that are not good for me personally.
I love it. The one phrase that I heard you say that I love is I'll be actually living.
Yes.
I love that, actually living. Well, I love all of this. I thank you for joining me. And one thing I do want to say, part of the embracing brilliance is you mentioned talking about your consulting, and we never know who's going to watch and come by. But what for someone to contact you or know more about the services that you offer, how would they do that? Like get in touch with you, because we just never know.
Yeah, well, actually, I am putting the finishing touches on my website. Um, and I've actually changed the well, I have a email where people can get in contact with me now, and it's capstoneSLTC at gmail.com. So that's capstone speech language therapy and consulting. So it's just capstoneSLTC at Gmail. And that's where, anybody that has questions about consulting or even just about speech language pathology or anything, they can contact me there. And like I said, I'm finishing up my website that's going to be going live in October. And then, even then, if they Google me, if y'all want to Google me in October, that website is going to be under Dr. Kimmerly, www.drkimmerly.com. So that's what's going to be launching in October. And so, but that's all going to be pulled in with Capstone. It's going to be everything right there in one place. So um, that's where you can find me now and where you can find me in October.
Great. Yes, I will make sure I put that information down below for anyone, because we just never know what may happen. It only takes one person, one deal to make the world, to change the world.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for
Thank
joining me
you.
and joining us. And I hope all of you got something out of it. Let me know down below some of your thoughts, if you agree, disagree, because this is always a conversation. And I want everyone to remember to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Until next time, bye.